Hi, and welcome to Making the Strange, a podcast about how we made our fiction podcast. We will take you along with us in real time as we create our fiction podcast. I'm Jennifer, the writer and creator of The Strange Chronicles.
And I'm Chris, the producer of The Strange Chronicles, a sci-fi noir detective podcast.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about creating the story. We'll talk about the theme, characters, and genre.
In our technical mishap or magic segment, we'll discuss a piece of technical magic that happened along the way. And in How's the Writing Going?, Jennifer will discuss how the writing is going.
And finally, we'll provide a podcast tip, something that you can use as a strategy for making your own podcast.
First, a quick rundown of this podcast and why we are making it.
Okay, Making the Strange is a meta experiment. It's us making our own podcast, hoping that it will help you make your own podcast.
The experiment is partly to keep us on task and make sure we complete the season, and also to share what the experience is like for others who might have an interest in telling their own fictional story.
Exactly. So if you happen to be one of those people, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at info@thestrangechronicles.com. And we'll be sure to include your questions in a future episode.
So how's this experience been going for you? Are you getting started okay? Are you still in the beginning, or where are you?
Honestly, it was super fun. Making something new is always more work than you expect. It took a lot longer recording than I thought. Like, say, 15 minutes of VO voiceover took 4 hours to record. So, yeah, it just took a lot longer going over it and doing multiple takes and trying to make it sound good. So hopefully as we continue on, I'll get faster at recording and understand voiceover a little bit better.
Yeah, prioritizing time, that's always the hard part, right?
You are much better at time management and planning than I am. I just kind of jump in full steam until I can't go any longer, and I'm realizing that might not work.
I think we all do it. It's just a matter of trying to, I make lists is how I do it.
I do that as well, but somehow that did not help me prioritize because I just look at the list and realize I haven't checked any of the boxes yet.
No, it's okay. You just got to check one, and then you pick that one, number one, most important, stick to it, and do it until it's done.
Recording the podcast today.
Yay.
Okay, so now it's time for our technical magic or mishap. And today is a magic. So, Chris, tell us something magical that happened with the tech.
All right, so today's magic stemmed from a mishap, actually.
But we'll get to that in the next episode.
We had, so for this, in order for us to both record, I was trying to make it a little bit more...
Profesh.
No. For both of us to record, I was trying to make it a bit more comfortable for us. We were sharing a microphone and leaning over each other. It was, it was a little cumbersome. We were sitting down trying to squeeze into a place where, we could find some decent soundproofing in a house that the floors squeak in and cars drive by and all sorts of noise. So out of that, I went ahead and I went and bought a couple of boom arms, and I bought myself a microphone so that we would each have one to speak into, so it wouldn't be huddled over bumping heads. And the first boom arms that I bought were terrible. I won't say the brand name, but let's just suffice to say that they didn't actually bend. The tension in them was so tight.
This is a mishap. That's for the next episode.
I know this is a mishap. I'm getting to the magic. I'm getting to the magic because sometimes the mishap breeds something magical. So anyway, that tension was too tight. It wouldn't bend. It kept flinging straight up in the air.
This is the mishap.
And going 10 feet above your head.
No, you just don't explain the mishap. Just say, there was a mishap, but the magic is.
Anyway.
Or should we just do this as a mishap?
Yeah, this is a mishap.
And then we'll do the magic in the next episode?
Sure. Magic can be the next episode.
Okay.
It's another mishap.
Let me reintroduce you.
But let me continue. It's before I lose my train of thought.
Okay.
And I can go back to that and throw that in.
Okay.
It's fine. Anyway, so here we are. And I got new booms. I exchanged them out for some much nicer booms. These ones are made by Rode. I will say that because they work. And I'm happy with them. which allowed Jen. It helped us out in two areas actually. Jen records in her closet when she records the main series, the actual scripted one, and she was kind of hunched down, sitting on the ground with her mic on this little like tripod thing, and it was very uncomfortable for her. So the boom I was able to mount so she could stand up and record. And from what you told me,
it's magical.
Yeah. See, there's the magic. I told you we get to the magic. And now here we are. I got two of them, and I have my own microphone, and you're on your microphone that you had. And we're recording together, and we're standing up, and we're able to look at each other and have our devices in front of us so we can record and be comfortable. And I just try not to shift my feet and make the floor squeak. But no, this is great. I love this. This is way better than our first recording. I'm happy.
Well, you'll see when you listen back.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to discuss how the writing is going. So, Jen, how is the writing going?
Okay, so the writing is going terribly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Waiting on feedback for the next episode. Have no new ones written. The only positive is that we made ourselves a deadline calendar, which hopefully will be key to getting us back on track. So the verdict on the writing for now is that it was bad. Hopefully I will get more done in the next episode and I won't feel so behind.
Okay. I hope it goes better for you. Next up, we're going to discuss the story.
Yes, this is the story episode. Now, this is just going to be the basic rundown of the Strange Chronicles Season 1 story.
All right, so let's start with the theme.
Okay, so the Strange Chronicles has themes of belonging, finding your people, finding your voice. Gray, the main character, is pretty confident when the series starts, but she wasn't always so assured. The supernatural wasn't really something she was so accepting of initially, and she has to learn that she's good at detective work and finds a kindred spirit in her partner Joe, and her life kind of finds its rhythm. Gray's father was a private detective, so there's definitely a legacy angle. Some of the tropes we explore are a misfit looking for acceptance mixed with partners fighting crime and then coming home after a change. So over the first season, Gray learns how important her work is to the greater good and maybe even to herself.
All right, another part of story is identifying the genre that you want to be in.
Yes, so genre is a personal choice. Some of the most popular fiction podcast genres are romance, thriller, and of course my favorite, sci-fi or fantasy. I do think choosing a clear genre will make it easier for your listener to find you. So yeah, you could have something that kind of crosses all the genres, but I think if you hone in on one specific genre, you know, you'll have like an easier way to contact your audience or speak to your audience.
I think one other part of story that we maybe could talk about too is, are these episodes standalone? Is this a continuing arc? How did you go about that? Did you have any thoughts on that? What made you decide which way to go and why?
So I wanted them to be standalone so that someone could join in at any time and listen to a complete little story, but also having some personal stakes and an overall arc with the characters. I added that in because I think because this project is hopefully will be bigger than this one season of this podcast, and so I had to work in some other ideas as well of the personal relationships that are happening. But yes, they are standalone, so like from the beginning to the end, that will be the one mystery will be solved or not solved.
But you've got little nuggets sprinkled in there that do tie it all together, so there is a bit of an arc.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, now it's time for our podcast tip. Something that we learned to help make your journey easier.
And the podcast tip for today is don't be afraid to learn a new skill. There are a lot of things that can be intimidating about making a fiction podcast. There's the idea, the writing, the planning, the production, the marketing, and social media. For me, the most intimidating was learning the Audition software so far. The most intimidating so far, I should say that. I don't know the first thing about audio software and didn't know the jargon or how it worked or any of the commands. But, I watched a few YouTube videos and I was able to learn a very basic knowledge of how to record audio. And I still have a lot more to learn, but I probably, I keep refreshing myself as we go. But I'm trying to lean in on the thrill of learning something new. So that's the tip. Don't be afraid to learn a new skill, because probably a lot of people can get stuck and not make their really cool story because they're afraid that something's too hard or not in their wheelhouse. So I think that just try to lean in. YouTube has like videos for everything. So if something is intimidating you, that's like a signal that you should learn that thing, even if it scares you.
I like that. I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. Maybe a little bit. I have trouble being satisfied with things, but I think there's, something to be said about even when you think you've done something really well and you might think, this is the best I've ever done, you can always do better, and that's part of the learning experience. So just always take what you've done and build upon it.
Yeah, and I think too, if you just admit that you have no idea what you're doing, it kind of frees you a bit. If you're always trying to do something perfectly, then you're going to get stuck a lot.
Yeah.
But if you just just admit, I'm terrible at this, or I have no idea what I'm doing, it makes it more fun too. Because if I was like, oh, audio software, I have no idea what I'm doing, this is going to be so hard, and got really in my head about it, it probably would have taken a lot longer to actually do it. But instead I kind of think of it as like a funny thing. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to try. And that's really what this podcast is all about, is like not having any idea what we're doing. This is totally new to us. And hopefully our experience could be helpful to someone else.
Yeah, there can be magic in mistakes. All right. Well, that is it for this episode of Making the Strange.
We want to thank you for tuning in to our journey in creating a fiction podcast. We hope it will inspire you to create your own story, because we believe that everyone has a story to tell. Please email us with any podcast tips or questions you might have at info@thestrangechronicles.com.
Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Making the Strange and at The Strange Chronicle Podcast. Be on the lookout for The Strange Chronicles, a sci-fi detective podcast. Until our next episode, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jennifer. Keep it strange.
This has been a Kings of Content production.